What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here. Today we're going to be looking over the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. I do want to go over a couple of things here. I want to take an opportunity to do this before I get too many videos out there. And I've got a lot planned. So, if you're new or you're one of the few subscribers that have subscribed in the last couple of days, there's a lot planned. I've got a lot that I'm going to show here in the coming weeks and months, and so stick around, definitely. But so the last couple of days I've been doing everything on my phone, and if you've done this before, then until you activate your account, it stops you. I believe after 15 minutes it'll halt the upload, and it won't let you, it'll say too long and you have to activate your account. Okay, so I had to get on a desktop computer and get that activated before I could do it. And if you look at my other videos, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of rushed. I'm trying to get things in there under 15 minutes. And initially I thought, well, maybe that's not a big deal. Maybe people only want to sit there for 10 minutes, or maybe some people don't even want to sit there for 10 minutes or 12 minutes. Maybe some people drop off after 3 or 4 minutes, and that's fine. But really, the way that I want to do this, I've got a lot to say about these things. And yesterday, the 0562s and the Blur and this Hinderer that I've got sitting there in the background, I've got more to say about those. And there's, 10, 12 minutes is not enough for me to get out what I want to get out. And if you're not the type of person who likes to sit around and listen to somebody like me talk for 15 to 20 minutes, that's okay. That's totally fine. I get that. There's a lot of other channels out there that only talk for 5 to 10 minutes, and maybe that's what people like, and that's okay. Which kind of brings me into the next point. I want this channel to be about honesty and openness and sincerity, and I don't want to pretend to be something that I'm not. So I'm gonna take this time to explain who I am and why I feel like I even have anything to say. Let me start off by saying what I'm not. I'm not a knife maker. I'm not a metallurgist. I'm not a professional on edge geometry or blade geometry. I don't have any real long-lasting special connection with any of the big names in the knife world. I'm just a guy who started off with something that most would consider a cheap build quality or an inexpensive build quality in a folding knife, and slowly graduated into the more premium stuff. And I don't want to say I have a unique perspective, but I feel like I have an interesting one, because I did get up to the point where I was collecting and trading for a lot of knives right in between the $500 and $700 mark, which a lot of people would consider to be a price point where you're at the very peak of production. That price range is generally going to net you an extremely high build quality that is not quite a custom knife, but one that is made to a very high standard. And I just want everybody to know that I have a lot to say. I have a lot of opinions and things that I look for in a folding knife, and things that are perfect for me. And my taste has gotten very, very refined. It's not perfected. Nothing that I'm gonna say is. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying it absolutely is this way. I'm not going to take anybody else's opinion, because that's not true at all. In fact, there'll be knives on this channel, I'm sure, that I'll show that are really expensive, but I'm not above showing knives that are only $20 to $50 that I think are good for the money, and I'll go over why. So that's the kind of stuff I'm going to do. I'm not going to do a lot of editing. There's going to be times where I just talk for an extended period of time. I'm hoping people just watch this channel who just want to kick back, look at knives, hear what somebody else has to say. And if you watch one of these videos and you go out and you make a purchase based on one of my recommendations anywhere, that's what makes me happy. I just like to talk about knives. I like the idea of drawing people in to either the hobby or you know, having somebody affected by my recommendation. I love that. And a lot of the knives I'm going to show are from guys here at my dealership that did exactly that. So let's talk about this knife. This paramilitary 2 is owned by a gentleman named Ricky, who I work with, and he's actually he's been in the comments section a couple of times. He's got a cool channel. If you're into motorcycles or bodybuilding, that guy knows what he's talking about. So check his channel out. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. He's definitely better. I mean, in terms of, the quality production of his video and things like that, I think he's better. I could take a note from him for sure. I have a lot to say about this knife. And, this paramilitary, when I started talking to Ricky, I did what I did with everybody else. I started going off about folding knives, and I showed him mine. And I said, a good place to start if you're interested, because he started to show interest kind of, and I couldn't tell if, again, he was just being nice or if he was actually interested. I said a good place to start is Zero Tolerance. And I said some other good brands are Spyderco and Benchmade. And I feel like that's all I said. And he went on to, I think, do his own research. I can't remember if I actually showed him the paramilitary 2 or not. I honestly think, Ricky, I think you found this on your own. And he made his ZT purchase, and then shortly after, he made this purchase. And I thought that was so cool. That he just went ahead and did that on his own, because the paramilitary 2 has an amazing legacy as like one of the best everyday carry option folding knives for the money out there. And I agree, but I didn't initially, and I want to go over that. When I first discovered Spyderco, I hated how they looked. I thought Spyderco in general, I thought were the ugliest folding knives I had ever seen at that point, and I couldn't understand why anybody would want to carry that. I had started to develop this kind of nose in the air opinion about what a quality folder should look like. And I was fixated on this plain Jane drop point blade, in my opinion, all business, no flair look. And I looked at the Spyderco and I was like, that thing is so wonky. I mean, I was like, those blades, like, what kind of weird pelican duck build thing is that? What is that for? And Ricky's, yours, at the time, I would have said, that looks like an evil digi-camo pelican. It's weird, I just thought it was so ugly. And I walked into there's a retailer here in town who sells Benchmade. And at the time, I noticed they had a knife that was unmistakably a Spyderco. I didn't know it then, but it was a Tenacious when I was looking in there. I had to pick it up and look at it. I had never heard of it. And I thought, I think they were asking like $50 or $55 for it. And I was like, for that price, I'm going to give this a shot. I don't know what the appeal to it was. Maybe it was the flat peel ply G10. I picked it up and I thought, this doesn't feel too bad. I picked it up and I went ahead and bought it, played with it for a while. And for whatever reason, I really enjoyed it. I don't know why. The Tenacious doesn't have a premium steel on it. It was actually against what I had started to be interested in at the time. And I held on to it for a while, and like a lot of other knives that I've handled, I ended up trading it. But by my very next purchase was a paramilitary. And it was purely because everybody, online was saying the paramilitary 2 is awesome. It's the best Spyderco out there, and I really loved S30V, and I really had, come to enjoy G10 scales, and I wanted more with this peel ply texturing. I like that. So I ordered one because they were only, $130. And I'm going to tell you why I was absolutely 100% wrong about Spyderco making knives that I thought were just meant to look cool. I thought that this weird blade shape and this hole and all this, I thought that this was just flashy nonsense. I could not have been more wrong. Everything about this knife, every curve, every line, every function is actually all business. There's nothing about this that is pomp and frills. It's straightforward. What you get is exactly what you pay for. So my sweet spot with folding knives, by the way, is anywhere an overall length of 7.75 inches to about 8.5 inches. That's where I like to carry. Weight doesn't matter as much to me as long as it's not obtrusive in the pocket. You know, if something only weighs 4 ounces, but it's super wide and it's just obnoxious and it's in the way, then I'm not going to carry it. But if it weighs 8 ounces and it's not in the way, then that's fine with me. I'm not carrying a whole bunch of other gear that weighs me down, so the weight of my knife doesn't matter as much as how much room it takes up in the pocket. So I don't know what this weighs. I want to say it's between 3.5 and 4 ounces. The cutting edge on this has got to be, and I'm making a guess, I'm not actually going to look up the specs. I want to say this knife overall, we'll just compare it with the XN so I'm not too far off. Yeah, it's about the same length. I want to say it's close to 8 1/4 overall. Cutting edge on the blade is probably 3.25, and it's probably a 3.5 inch blade. That's perfect for me. When I picked this thing up, here's where my opinion changed. Right here. The purchase on this knife, sorry for that glare, is perfect. This is why it's shaped like this. This is why this, I mean, the handle to me looked weird. This fits perfectly in hand. And let me tell you, the love for the forward choil came from Spyderco. This is awesome right here. They add the jimping there, and they add the jimping here. When you hold it like this, the only choil that I like better than a hinderer, sorry buddy, just kind of tossed you in the seat there, is on the Spydercos. The way that they do these choils is so perfect. I mean, it's not often that I'm actually doing something where I need to hold it like this, but I do because it just feels comfortable. And then your second finger falls here, third finger falls here, fourth finger falls here. Thumb always goes up here for me. Even if you're holding it like this, it's perfect. Those ergonomics on the paramilitary are so awesome. They really just kind of melt into your hand. So that right there, that got me. The thumb hole, the next thing, the deployment, you know, I was like, that's stupid. It looks stupid. I don't like it. I just immediately dismissed this knife because of the thumb hole. This looks like half of a pair of scissors to me, right? But that thumb hole's so easy to get your thumb into and open. So easy. And I want to say this is the knife that made famous that, because you can get your finger in there and do it. Or, you know, I've seen guys do that thing. I don't, there's no, yeah, it's fun to do, but there's no reason to open it like that, obviously. But I got this thing about how easy something is. You know, when you go from the knife being into your pocket and you need it, right? There's this kind of 3-point system that I use. How easy is it to grab, pull out of your pocket, deploy without dropping it, use it, and then put it away. Every time. If I find that there's an awkward process of getting it out of my pocket and deploying it, I'm probably not going to carry it. If it's weird or I feel like I'm going to drop it or it just doesn't feel comfortable, I'm probably not going to carry it. You know? That's a big deal to me. And the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 does that really well. I talked about pocket clips with this divot here. Spyderco, or at least this style of pocket clip, is on a lot of their folders, and in my opinion, this is an excellent pocket clip. It's not a deep carry, but I don't really care about that. I'm not a huge fan of deep carry. I almost like a little bit to stick up out of my pocket. I think I was watching Jim Skelton's videos one time, and I think actually he talked about this, and I agree with him. I like a little bit to stick out, but it's really this part right here. I like my finger to fall into this groove, and then when it's in my pocket, I like this thumb to pinch right here, and I pull it out, right? I want some texturing, like this peel ply texture that's here, and you know, for a little bit of resistance on your thumb so you can hang on to it, but not so much that it's shredding my pants or hard to pull out. This is perfect. Medium texture, pinch here and here, pull it out. Love that. And then how it falls in your hand, you end up here. You just go out. I rarely flick Spydercos out. I just open them like that, right? So that's perfect. Let's talk about getting into the cut. The way that these are ground is a full flat grind. It makes me, it really is similar to a kitchen knife. On a drop point, you know, on this, here's the flat and then the bevel, right? So it's thick up here, and then this comes down, and it ends up being really thick behind the edge because this has to drop, you know, dramatically to get down to a point that's sharp enough to cut. And so you end up on the hinderer, on this blade style anyway, with it's a cutting edge, but it's not going to be the most excellent slicer. This is an excellent slicer. And there are knives out there that are ground like so perfectly that you can, you know, factory, you can split hairs and stuff with that. That's not what this is. But out of the box, these are sharp, and they do slice really well. You know, if you have a brand new Spyderco sitting in front of you and you've got a brand new ZT0562, the ZT0562 slicer, it's a slicer grind from Hinderer, and it does slice well, but these slice better. And again, I'm not a professional on edge geometry, but these have always felt better to me. They just glide through material. And I'm not somebody who will take a knife out and hammer it into wood or use it incredibly hard or anything like that. I like a folding knife the build quality is high enough that it's going to last a long time if you maintain it and use it on materials that are reasonably within the parameters of the design or the intended purpose of the knife. That was a mouthful. Sorry about that. I kind of stuttered around that. But to me, this is a medium duty folding knife that should be used for, you know, maybe light wood tasks at the heaviest, cardboard, paper, rope, you know, in my opinion, stuff that you would use a folding knife for. If you're gonna go, you know, if you're gonna do a heavier task, then use a fixed blade. And if you don't need a blade, then don't use a blade. Use the tool that is appropriate for the job. But for what this is intended to do, I think it's perfect. I could give or take black coatings. In fact, I tend to prefer a non-coated blade, but the way that they do these coatings, this isn't just painted on there. That's actually in it, and it's a DLC of some sort. I don't think they call it PVD. PVD is something else, but this is a DLC of some sort, and it has held up well. Ricky uses his. This is a used paramilitary too, and it's why I like showing these. I don't want to show one that's brand new and just say, in theory, it should do this. No, you know, these guys have picked these up and they use them. He carries this all the time. In fact, he carries it more than his ZT, which I'll eventually show on this channel. But the ZT, I think he accidentally broke the pocket clip, so that's probably why he carries this more. But I know he enjoys this. So cutting performance, definitely. It's got a really thin tip. That is one heck of a splinter getter. Super sharp. He hasn't managed to break that. I think those are pretty resilient, you know, unless you're jamming it deep into wood and prying, which I don't know why you do anyway. That tip's going to last a long time. This is CPM S30V. This is part of their USA line. Golden, Colorado, USA Earth. I always thought it was funny they put Earth on there. Like, in case you weren't sure what planet it was from. Though that's a fair point, because this thing does look, you know, completely different than what we're used to seeing on this planet. Very simple construction. You have a large lanyard hole. You've got 2 body screws on each side. You've got a pivot, obviously. I don't know why I had to say that. So let's go to the end here. the closing mechanism. This is an interesting mechanism. Instead of a front liner lock, this is sort of a rear, I guess, I don't know if they call it a spine lock. These break in, you know, a lot of the ones that I've handled and the two that I've owned, one standard and one of the S110V models, they took a little bit to break in, but once they do, they're smooth. And actually, that was a bad example. This is about 70% as smooth as I've felt him. But in any case, this is easy to close. Pull it out, deploy it, use it for whatever you're going to use it for, close it, and put it back in your pocket. That uprising in the clip right there makes it easy to get it over, you know, regular thickness material in pants. Really perfect. Ricky, I'm not a huge fan of Digi Camo, but that's cool. That's fine with me that you like it. I'm glad you got what you wanted. Mine was just black G10 and the satin blade. Really a perfect knife. And again, I'm not saying anything new here. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking. I think a lot of people know that the Paramilitary 2 is one of the best options out there for the price point. If Spyderco's your thing and you haven't picked up a Paramilitary 2 yet, I believe you'll be really happy with this. If you're using it the way that it's intended, if you're using it and taking care of it, you know, you don't have to use the blade so hard that you get nicks and rolls and stuff in it. You might every now and then, but S30V is a blade steel that can be maintained and stropped fairly easily. When I do it, I just use a legal pad. I'm not a professional sharpener, but I don't use my knives very hard, and if I do feel a little tiny nick or roll or something, I just strop it out on a legal pad to the best of my ability. And I'm not super good at that either, but it does seem to work. Just a little bit of oil every now and then. Not necessarily a lot in the pivot. I've come to like my pivots dry unless they really, really need to be cleaned out. So these are G10 on both sides, but I want to go over this. They do have skeletonized liners inside there, which I could give or take. Actually, I prefer the liners to be solid. I don't know why. I think they're probably just as strong one way or another. I don't know why I prefer the solid liners, but it does help with weight reduction for those of you who care about that. And then you've got simple standoffs, and then you've got a really fat standoff back here, which is actually the barrel for the lanyard hole. And Ricky's got a lanyard on there, which I think is nice. I don't, you know, makes it easier to grab onto. It looks cool, you know, definitely. I think a lot of times lanyards look cooler than they actually add any real functionality or utility pulling it out of your pocket. But in any case, this is a lot more the nature of how I want to do these videos. I don't want to be rushed. I don't want to sound like I'm talking a million miles a minute. I want to get my point across and talk about stuff for a little bit, give you guys something to look at, go over why I love these things, and talk about, you know, how they kind of fit into my personal needs. So definitely recommend this. Definitely pick one up if you haven't. And if you have and you love it, again, comment, like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I can't tell you guys how appreciative I am. You know, every day I wake up or actually like every 2 hours I check, and maybe I've only got 1 or 2 new views, and that makes me so happy. It gets me so excited. You know, even if this is always just a small group of people who are watching and listening, that's great. I'm happy with that. I think that's really cool. So thank you so much for the people who have subscribed. Ricky, thank you for lending this to me, and thank you for agreeing to lend me your other knife that we're going to do another video on. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.